It concerns me because I'm not sure what that would take us back to. It kind of unravels a lot of work that we've done. We're already implementing our current math standards. Teachers have been trained, materials have been created at the local level. I have a son that's in the 8th grade, and he's in a phenomenal 8th grade Algebra 1 class so that he can make it to upper level math when he's in high school. I'm not sure which standards we would revert to. We have old ones. When you revert, in my opinion, we're making a step backward. That would also influence our work that we're doing on assessment. I guess my biggest concern is we've spent this year really developing a clear relationship with our partners in post-secondary, higher education, and business and industry. And for the first time, really have a dialogue that's going, that we're all working together toward students being college and career ready. Not that I mean that that's a place, but there's a set of skills that are important regardless of where you go, that would be unraveled, and we'd have to start over on trying to rebuild that relationship.
Yes, my name is Debbie Head of City on the Hill radio show, and after 2 years in Common Core, Georgia seniors are at a recommended reading level of 7th grade, and they also are spending, instead of $8, $80 a month on their students now in education, and of course they're trying to get out of it. But my question is in your waiver to get out of No Child Left Behind, in your application for Race to the Top, in which Common Core is a requirement, on page 21, it says that Alabama is one of only 14 states to meet No Child Left Behind assessment standards in reading, math, and science for both regular and alternative assessments. And my question is, it seems like we're being deceived about the standards and are going into standards that are not tested.
First, I'm glad we're not Georgia. We are in Alabama, and we're going to keep very focused on what's working in Alabama. I will be glad to, I don't have that in front of me, I will be glad, as we've recorded this, to respond to you in writing as to what that answer would be.
Okay. Well, we're grateful for this opportunity. We know that the State Board of Education is a servant to the people, the families of Alabama. And I would charge that the most important thing the State Board can do is to protect the rights of the parents over their children. And to me, Common Core is like a house of cards because the foundation of it is bad. As you know, you already know because your name was on there, Mr. Rice, as the State Race to the Top contact name on this signature.
Yes, thank goodness we didn't get Race to the Top.
Yeah, well, you signed on, or Riley did, and Dr. Martin, and that requirement of it was to be part of the Common Core standards. That was part of it. We had to agree to that, and y'all did. But what I don't understand is, how can you, at that point, when the standards were not even tested, because the Race to the Top application was sent out November '09, you signed on to it 2 months later in January 2010. The final draft of the standards weren't until March. They were not even published until June. So how can you be promoting that at that point that they were already tested? And how can you give away parental rights? Because as Dr. Robert Scott had said in his statement at a Georgia hearing, he says, my experience with the Common Core started when I was asked to sign on to them before they were even written. I was told I needed to sign a letter agreeing to the Common Core, and I asked if I might read them first, which I think is appropriate. I was told they had not been written, but they still wanted my signature on the letter, the same letter that Riley and, unfortunately, Dr. Morton signed on. And he says that's absurd. First of all, I don't have the legal authority to do that because our Texas law requires our elected State Board of Education to adopt curriculum standards to be done with direct input of their teachers, parents, and that was not done. So my question is, how could our State Board have signed off and not agreed with Robert Scott that they weren't tested?
Sure. Again, glad we're not Texas. We're here in Alabama, and we're going to focus on what's right for Alabama. We signed on to that, I believe. I'm not one of the signers, but I believe to participate in the development of the standards, unlike some other states that adopted them sight unseen, we agree only with the caveat that we bring them back and take them through our process of approval that actually included public hearings, vetting it through media. You were actually in one of the meetings that I held at Carver High School when we met with parents and got input, and we actually have a script of all the questions and answers that were there. So I feel like we did come back and involve parents in that.
Well, it says right here.
Just a second, ma'am. Before we go into that, I do want to make sure that our other media have an opportunity to ask.
Well, can I put what he just said? It says right here, you will support its implementation. You are fully committed. I just want to put that was
Sure.
in there.
Through our state-led process.
Marcus.
Yes,
yeah.
Marcus.
On that note, Dr. Bice, is that the difference between some of these other states that are considering repealing it? Is the way that Alabama vetted it and they brought their own distinct way of doing it, that you're not concerned that that might happen here?
Yeah, Marcus, I'm real confident, and I share, I mean, I've met these two ladies before and have great respect for them. I don't dismiss their concerns, and we listened. I listened very intently in those meetings and came back and shared with the state board, then Dr. Morton, the state superintendent, and the state board, those concerns, so that when they did make that adoption, they included in that resolution those safeguards to ensure that we would never go to the place where we would be directed or coerced from outside the state of Alabama. Do I see value in working with other states? Absolutely. Do I want them telling us or anybody else telling us what's right in Alabama? Not necessarily. I may have something I can learn from them and hopefully them from us. But I'm not concerned because of our due diligence in this, not only for the standards, but our assessments, our data systems, that we can protect the rights of our children, their parents, our teachers, and those who work in public education. I feel fully confident in that.
Do we have any other questions from the established media?
Oh, I do have another one, if I makes it somebody else. I attended one of those meetings, Dr. Bice, and the only thing I had a problem with is I had to let people in the Mobile area know about these meetings, and that's why they were there. It was not attended like it should have been. I mean, you have the ability to really inform every parent of a student because you've got the school boards. So I really don't understand if you really wanted the parents to know why the students weren't getting letters to take home to their parents and have county board meetings instead of 4 regional center meetings, which we could just about count on our fingers how many parents were there. There were more teachers and educators there. And I'm sure every parent wants to know what's going on with the state of education in Alabama. I just cannot believe that parents don't want to be involved. So.
I totally agree and welcome parental involvement. I have no control over who comes to meetings once they're announced. I regret that there weren't more people there, but I have no control
Very
over
regretful, yes.
Do we have any? Yes, sir.
Another question about the bill. As I understand it, it would say that any future changes in curriculum would have to be approved by the legislature. Is that right?
That's the way I read it.
What do you think about that?
I would think that they probably don't want to do that. I'm not sure. Sometimes you get what you ask for. I think they would be better served to leave that with the State Board of Education. They ultimately have authority. But I think that is a function. We have a process in Alabama that is vetted from the grassroots level through development, through implementation, through public hearings, through multiple ways of input until the State Board approves it. I don't see what value it would bring to put another 3 steps into that.
How long does that process normally take, Dr. Bice, as of right now?
Well over a year and a half to develop a set of standards to really vet them. And another thing that has been lost in translation, we revisit our standards regularly. The standards we have now, they're on a cycle to be revisited and revised, just like they have always been. We've actually had our course of study team in recently to take a look at them to see if anything currently needs to be readjusted and changed, because in Alabama, just to show how different, some states who adopted the standards as they were submitted, the high school standards weren't broken into courses. They were just sets of standards by content. Our course of study committee actually looked at them and broke them and took all those standards and put them into specific courses that are unique to Alabama. Again, making sure that it was the right thing for our students, because we know what that looks like in our high schools. So we revisit regularly.
Dr. Bice, you already know that the ACT is also going to be aligned with Common Core, right? It's on their website.
I'm not aware of that.
It's on their website.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question. I was on the ELA textbook committee last year, and we were able to find several books that had a very liberal, progressive bias to the point where, seriously, it was very anti-American capitalism, anti-family, anti-what we believe here in Alabama as conservative people. My concern, the biggest concern that I have, because I've been talking to a lot of parents, is how do you keep, as the superintendent of education, how can you assure parents that these liberal, progressive ideas will not be studied in their classrooms? Because I know that you said that we have a progression. I was an educator for 32 years. I made those lesson plans. I know how it works. And you have to be very cognizant of what is happening with textbooks, with internet sites, with any kind of resource that you as a teacher could pull in. Is there any guarantee that you can make to parents that the ideas that are against family values will not be taught in our Alabama classrooms?
I can answer that two ways. Number one is, I understand that you were on the ELA textbook committee and submitted a minority report,
Yes, sir.
concerns about certain textbooks that were sent forward by the majority of the committee. I personally rejected those textbooks that were on your list because of that very reason. So there's a safeguard right there.
Okay.
Every one of them. The other thing is, some of those decisions have to be made at the local level. That's where local parents, local school boards, local administrators, the standards only point out what needs to be taught. How that's taught and how that curriculum is developed and what textbooks are eventually adopted occurs at the local level. We assure, with your input, and I appreciate that what we put on the approved list that can be chosen from the local level is as pure as we can make it. But again, those sorts of decisions, I can't tell you with 100% accuracy that I can say that in Bennett Bice's 10th grade biology class tomorrow, what's exactly going to be taught. I can't do that. But I have to respect the profession of teaching and hope that teachers are doing exactly what the needs of their students are.
And may I follow up with that? The 50% informational text that will be taught through English language arts doesn't necessarily have anything to do with literature as literature has been known in the past. Now the 50% informational text, as the exemplars that I saw on the Vestavia website, Vestavia school website here in Alabama, are things like kids will be reading, and I saw this, kids will be reading about anti-lock brakes, the Federal Reserve System in San Francisco, a health clinic in Texas. And so I'm just really curious about how does that increase a child, or not a child, but a student, because a lot of this was for 9 through 12 grades. How does this prepare them for college to read manuals, executive orders, and so on? Because these are model exemplars for Common Core, for college and career readiness, and it's on several school websites here in the state of Alabama.
Sure. They're exemplars, and they're simply that. Nobody says they have to do those. And the informational text, if we read a little deeper into it, can be applied across subject matter, so it doesn't have to be applied just in English language arts classes. So it can happen in career tech classes, it can happen across multiple classes to ensure that that informational text is required, is met. And I think it's real important because we want to make sure that every kid has an opportunity to pursue whatever avenue they have. And we have many kids that may not go to four-year college. They go into technical school or go directly into work. And having the ability upon graduation to read those technical manuals and those sorts of informational texts, according to business and industry, is crucial for their success.
So we cannot protect literature in the English language. We cannot protect that. I mean, they would get this information in these other classes anyway.
That's what I'm saying. That's where the informational text can be implemented. There's nothing that says that literature has to be diminished in English language arts.
Okay, and
That's a
I'm gonna
local
hold you
decision.
to, I'm gonna hold you to the word on that.
Hold me.
Simply because 50% nonfiction, 50% literature.
Sure,
It just, that really bothers me as a
I understand
teacher.
totally.
Okay.
There's great value in literature.
Yes, there is.
Sure.
We want to thank everyone for coming out. We appreciate all the questions that have been asked. If there are any follow-up questions, you guys in the media, most of you know me, feel free to contact me or Eric or Melissa personally. The document